Hi, welcome to this session hosted by Leadfeeder about keeping calm and creating pipeline during these troublesome times. As everybody knows, sales are under extensive pressure at the moment in order to make sure that they've still got their pipeline populated. It's very difficult. Nobody knows what the next move is going to be. We've been keeping a very close eye on things, the same as everybody else has over the past 2 months almost, and looking at different ways in which to really push forward and keep the finger on the pulse from a sales perspective. Today, I'm just going to bring you through some of the things that we've observed and some of the reactions that we've done. And I hope you guys find it interesting and have some key takeaway points for you guys to go and implement as soon as you get back to the office. So just a quick intro for myself. My name is Andy Culligan. I'm the CMO at Leadfeeder. You can get me on LinkedIn at Andy-Culligan. Just a background on myself, just around the pipeline piece. I have a background in sales and marketing. So being a CMO, I've also been in sales roles. I've been an SDR. I've managed SDR teams as well. So I'm very well connected with the sales world, hence why the pipeline building piece is so important to me. From a marketing perspective, everything that I do is focused on creating pipeline for sales as well. So I drive a very revenue focused organization from a marketing perspective. And the number one thing that I focus on is alignment between sales and marketing. I really believe that once you get that alignment piece in place, then you start to get more out of the dollars that you're spending for marketing. And you enable sales then to get more pipeline in an easier fashion. So let's just take a look at what's been happening over the past couple of months. So just one interesting thing is if anybody could think about where this is and what day of the year it is. So this is something from my side, being an Irishman, it's obviously in Ireland. This is in Temple Bar, and Temple Bar is one of the busiest places in Dublin. A lot of tourists tend to go to Temple Bar, and the Temple Bar itself is a pub which is quite busy, as you can see here. But this year, or this day, was St. Patrick's Day 2019. So let's take a look at what St. Patrick's Day 2020 looked like. So if we compare both of those different pictures, we can see a very different contrast in terms of how business is going, what people can be expecting from business, and what the world is like at this current moment in time. So how is this impacted on B2B? So if we look at a couple of different areas, events, okay, so we can see from an events perspective, there's this one report that I've been extensively reviewing around event marketing in 2019. You can see from this report that 1,000 plus senior marketers were interviewed. And we can see from those 1,000 plus senior marketers, they were working with companies which was managing over 738 million in event spend. So that's a huge amount of money that's being pumped into events. That's just, for offline events that probably won't be happening in 2020. The focus of this particular report was on software services and media, just as a separate note there. But if we look at the stats that I've pulled out of this particular report, is that 30% organize events to support lead generation, sales acceleration. 41% of those see this as like one of the most critical marketing channels when it comes to pipeline build. And coming into this year, most 63%, so the good majority of people that were interviewed were planning to increase their budgets coming into 2020 for events. So we can see that, from a lead gen perspective, a pipeline generation perspective, events was probably one of the most well-performing channels from a marketing perspective in the B2B world. So what do we do now? I'll get to it a little bit later on in terms of what the alternatives are, but this is, something that B2B marketers and salespeople need to take into consideration. As you can see here, a number of different events have already been cancelled. They were cancelled quite early on. Let's take SaaStock as an example. So SaaStock is one of the largest SaaS conferences globally. It was supposed to take place in June in San Francisco, and their CEO Alex decided very early on in March that he would pull the plug on it. Thankfully, in the meantime, they've managed to put a remote session in place. So during the same days that they were going to run the physical event, they will be running a remote event. This gives a great deal of opportunity to people now pushing forward with this events calendar, but I'll get to that a little bit later on. Let's take one real life example just to give you a good taste in terms of what I've seen personally, having worked with Demexco. Demexco being the largest digital marketing exhibition in Europe. Uh, it takes place in Germany, in Cologne, every year in September time. Um, it's in the Messe, which is a huge exhibition hall with a number of different halls. And it's definitely one of the biggest fairs I've been to globally. But let's take one real life example of what I've seen there. So with an estimated about 30k euro spend, send 4 salespeople plus a handful of marketing people to make sure that it runs smoothly. You get 50 meetings pre-booked there, so you get SDRs picking up the phone before any salesperson or SDR arrives at the event. You've got meetings in the calendar for the 2 days that it takes place of, and possibly some meetings in the evening beforehand. And then what you're looking to do is complete as many of those meetings as possible. Then whilst you're on the floor as well, you're also trying to capture additional leads, passing traffic, but you really want to be focusing on getting those meetings pre-booked. Because if you go to an exhibition that without meetings pre-booked, you're essentially going to have an empty stand. If you're expecting just traffic to walk by and to capture those, then you're really going to be in trouble. So on top of that, you will capture some leads for sure. Like you'll probably capture 100 leads out of those. You'd wonder how many of those are actually just tire kickers or people that are actually interested in purchasing. But off the back of those 50 meetings that you've got pre-booked, let's say 70% of those happen. Out of that 70%, you can turn about 500k into pipeline. Depending on what you're selling, average order size here, let's say somewhere between 60 to 70k. So you're looking at something like 8 to 9 opportunities which are opening off the back of that, which is not bad with a 30k spend. Now, the fact that events have been moved to digital form or virtual form, and maybe not all of them have announced this yet, it leaves like a question mark in sales and marketing's mind saying, is it going to be the same? Will we be able to push forward and do the same thing as we did before? Can we get those 50 meetings booked prior to the event? My answer to this is yes, but I'll get to this a little bit later on as well. So from an outreach perspective, what's changed? So let's say cold calling pre-2020. So this meme sort of sums it up, is that the prospect says she was interested, called back 16 times with no answer. So it's hard to get that connect. So if this looks familiar to you, I think the important part is that the prospect said means that there was actually a connect at some point between yourself and the prospect. Right now, it's an interesting time. I think you can manage to get some connects. It's difficult. You need to look at people's personal situations. You need to look at maybe they're working mixed hours with their partner because they have kids at home. They need to keep an eye on the kids, so maybe you're not going to reach them at the same time as what you normally do. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to look at things in a very different light. So you need to do a lot of research. Make sure that the research that you're doing is looking at also personal situations if you can find it out, and then also adapting that into your outreach approach. So if we look at like how people would jump in cold before, this is a message that I got from an SDR in the past saying, hey, Andy, it would be great to connect. We'd love to chat to you about trialing X with Y. I'm not going to tell you what the specific products were. They can say it's my previous company with a specific product. As a data-driven marketer, I'm pretty certain that we can help you convert more site visitors into customers. This was a particular chatbot the guy was reaching out to me about. I was, quite flattered, obviously being told that I'm a data-driven marketer, and so I was like, okay, look, I'll give this guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe we'll have a quick chat and see. I just wrote back and said, actually, we're already using a competitor of yours, but and we're happy with it. But thanks for reaching out. We're really not interested. But it's good that I wrote back to him, because then I would remember if we ever have any issues with our current provider, then we'll always go back to them. So he got back to me then. He said, oh, cheers for getting back to me. I appreciate you guys are all set with our competitor. I can offer you 50% off your first year with us. I think we can do a whole lot more for you guys and provide more value, blah, 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 blah. So as you can imagine, that for me is like warning signs. If people are dropping their price by 50%, I'm thinking, that's probably not offering the best value to me. So, that more or less puts me off the product for life. Then I don't want to go back and want to discuss that any further. If you're going to drop your price like that, it's really the value to me as a CMO or VP marketing as I was back then. You're missing out on like, or you're missing the bigger picture in terms of what's actually valuable to me. So we spent a long time in implementation of their competitor tool. We spent a lot of man hours, and we spent a lot of resource in doing so. And we'd finally got it built up, and then I got an outreach from a competitor telling me that they'll drop their price by 50% in order for us to kick out the person that we've just been spending a lot of time, resource, and coming up with processes for already. So missing out on all that information when he could have probably just done a fair review in terms of what we have on our site, what we've currently been doing with it, and so on, would have been easy enough to find how much effort we've been putting into to get that competitive product launched. So how do you get things working? So recently I got actually a really good cold call, and it's funny, at the moment I'm actually not getting many cold calls. It's I'm actually surprised. I typically get a number of SDRs reach out to me on a daily basis on LinkedIn, and then at the same time I also get a number of phone calls a day. I'm getting no phone calls at the moment, and I'm also getting very little outreach from SDRs on LinkedIn. Please don't take this as an opportunity to start spamming me on LinkedIn and picking up the phone and calling me, but I think it does tell a story that, you know, you need to start executing. This is one of the things I've been telling my team here at Leadfeeder, is that we just need to execute. Keep on pushing content out, keep on pushing forward, and things will start to happen. But this is a good example of somebody that reached out to me recently, and conversation went a little bit like this. My apologies now for my handwriting here, but it was, you know, when I was on the phone, as soon as I got off the phone, I thought, oh, I need to take a note of this real quick. So the conversation went a little like this. So, hi Andy, I said hello, obviously. We're helping Albacross and Lead Forensics get in front of target customers at this difficult time. So there's two parts that happen here. There's been, the person's recognized that we have these competitors. They've done the research. They've said, okay, let's make the start of this conversation a little bit relevant to Andy, because he obviously doesn't have that much time. And then at the same time, they also recognize the situation, the COVID-19 situation, in terms of things being a little bit tricky. What I am seeing is sometimes is people avoiding the topic altogether, which isn't right either, because it's in the world around us, everybody's in the same boat. So there's two parts here: relevancy and recognition. Understand that you're busy, so can we schedule a time next week to show you how we are helping Kickfire create pipeline at the minute. So it really finished off the conversation by introducing a competitor. So second competitor, or third competitor actually, because this particular lady mentioned Albacross and Lead Forensics earlier on. They then pushed in Kickfire, and then also a pain point for everybody at the moment is creating pipeline. So, you know, this is something that the person's obviously done a fair bit of research on me as a marketing leader in terms of what's important to me. Been looking at my LinkedIn profile, see that I'm talking about pipeline creation quite a bit. So I could see that that's a pain point of mine right now, because it is for everybody really in a sales and marketing focus role. You know, touching that pain point. So it's you know, this one was quite simple: is relevancy, recognition, relevancy, and pain. So within that, I just said, okay, yeah, within a minute, the person managed to book a meeting with me, and I went forward and had that meeting with them. So I think this is a good example of, if you want to do some outreach at the moment, be super relevant and do your research, and just make sure that you're not just you know, sending out the same unpersonalized message to everybody. As part of the research, something that we do at Leadfeeder, but this is also using the Leadfeeder product, is that we help understand when people are looking at our website, what's their intent. Okay, so from a number of different areas, let's use a simple example or a simple use case. Somebody has been reviewing our Contact Us page or our pricing page, or they've been looking at a demo page and they haven't converted, and we can recognize which company this is, and then prioritize that in our sales follow-up. So if somebody's been snooping around the pricing page quite a bit, with 3 or 4 people looking at pricing, and then also some of our solutions, you'd say, okay, that's showing pretty good buyer intent. That's showing good intent that they probably want to buy something from you, or at least they're very interested. So what we can do is we can decipher from that. We say, okay, we'll obviously put those to the top of our list when it comes to sales follow-up. Within Leadfeeder, then you can do further research. It's got the company information, as well as contact information from people that work there. So what you're able to do is understand the company information, exactly what the people have been looking at when they visited the site, see how many people have visited the site, where they came from, how long they spent on certain pages, which pages they were looking at, et cetera, et cetera. And then with that information, then you can decipher who you think the right persona within that organization is, and then you can, within the product, review who that person could have been, and then do your tailored follow-up from there on in, using the information that you already know. So let's say, for example, you can see that somebody has been looking at very heavy marketing content, and for example, blog posts, or has downloaded, or has maybe downloaded an ebook, or taken part in a webinar. You can then take your outreach approach to be more personalized towards that specific topic. So if we put these different things into play, what does that actually mean? So I think it's really important right now, and I've said this already just around the execution piece. I think it's really important that you start to change the conversation. Okay, so so what does that mean exactly? It means that you need to really focus on bringing in as much research from what's happening within your prospect's industry as possible. So really be able to offer value to people. So don't be coming in and just being like, hey, remember before this crisis, we were talking about you closing this particular deal with us? Don't do that. Go in and be like, we understand that the problems that you have right now, these are some of the things that your competitors are doing. This is somewhere we think we can help you with. Let's take a look at it together to see if there's anything that we can do right now. Okay? So be true to your brand, be true to yourself. So don't go in and be full of shit, excuse my French. Be genuine. It's really important at the moment that people are being genuine. I think generally I like to purchase from more genuine people anyway. And I think that's just a human trait, but more than ever, people need to be truly genuine. From a marketing perspective, it's really important that everybody becomes almost mini marketers. So from Lead Feeder's perspective, we've seen some great success over the past couple of weeks, growing our organic and free, let's call it free traffic to our website massively over the past 6 weeks. We've done that from a joint effort from everybody in the organization, because everybody wants our brand to get out there. So from a marketing perspective, we've been handing over sales fuel, let's call it. So blog posts, ebooks, webinars, etc., over to the commercial teams and getting them to share it on LinkedIn. You know, little things like that, and making sure that everybody is banging the brand drum at once. It's really important. The human part is again, it's about being genuine. It's something that I just mentioned there a couple of minutes ago. I think generally across any sales cycle, it's important that you have some human touch in there, and that you do create a connection with your prospect. Nowadays, more than ever, it's incredibly more important. But I think you just need to really focus on that human aspect. I think even from SDR's perspective, in the past, I've always had an issue with SDRs and this and that. They're so focused on numbers that they don't realize that you're picking up the phone to another human being at the other end of the line. So just always remember that you are dealing with another human being when you're actually in the sales cycle. So it's really important that you acknowledge that, and it's really important that you try to create that connection. So as well, I would be very careful, especially at the moment, to not over bang the drum when it comes to reaching out to prospects. If somebody's told you, hey, look, we're not looking at this right now, maybe drop it and move on to the next thing, because right now, to really be chasing people hard, it's mostly out of their hands. If budgets are blocked, then budgets are blocked. There's nothing you can do about it. You just need to make sure that you are sending relevant content. Maybe do some follow-up on a more semi-regular basis. Don't be checking in to see what the status is, but just be saying, hey, this might be something that might be of interest to you, and at least you're keeping your finger on the pulse that way. I think what you need to do is really step into people's shoes as well. So what's their real intent? As I mentioned this previously before, like, is there any signals from their online behavior that they could be interested in buying the product from you, or buying whatever it is you have to offer? This is intelligence that a lot of companies don't look at. So I call it first party intent data. A lot of people are talking nowadays about third party intent data. So understanding what's happening on the web generally in terms of people's buyer intent. But like, as any organization that has a website, you're sitting literally on a gold mine of data that you may not even be using. So what it is you're looking at all of the visitors that are coming to your site, identifying which companies they are, and then seeing what all of the different content that these companies have been interacting with, as well as the channels that they've come through, how long they've been there, how many people from that specific company, etc. And then really review that behavior and push it into every stage of your sales funnel. So for example, if you're if you're doing if you've got somebody in a sales funnel already, this doesn't just mean new prospects. This means also stuff that's already in the funnel. If something's gone a little bit cold, or you haven't heard from them in a couple of weeks, and you're starting to see people from that company come and visit your site, now is the time to pick up the phone and give them a call. You know, if you're really looking for those intent signals, look at somebody that's been reviewing your pricing page, or looking at somebody that's come and reviewed specific product pages, specific product features. This is really helpful information throughout the entire sales funnel, even when people are closer towards the end of the funnel when they're looking to close. So it's really important to take a look at that. From a perspective of where Lead Feeder fits into all of this, there's a couple of different levels. So you've got your company level intent data and your contact level intent data. So in this example, we're using Marketo, but like Marketo could be Pardot, or it could be HubSpot, or any marketing automation platform that you're using. So the contact level intent data is people coming to your site and filling out forms, essentially. 2 to 4% of those of your traffic is probably going to do that. 5% if you're really, really good. But typically, yeah, as I said, it's 2 to 4%. That leaves us sort of 96 to 98% of those companies that have been visiting your site completely unrecognized and just left behind. So right now, more than ever, especially if your budgets are being paused and so on, it's really important that you're recognizing that traffic and doing something with it. As you can see here, all of the information is being pushed into Salesforce, and we take all of your traffic from whatever source it's coming from. It could be existing clients, it could be things that are open or have already been lost, but now they're going back and having a look again, and also your target accounts at the top of the funnel. We can push that information into Salesforce for you to make it more manageable and actionable by your sales org. Salesforce is just one example of one of the CRMs that we do work with. We also integrate with Pipedrive, Microsoft Dynamics, Zoho, to name just a few. So if we look at the second play here, it's, you know, it just goes without saying, it's about getting personal. I think at the moment, there's no point in having any type of hard sell. You don't go in and say, hey, you know, let's go through our STAMP criteria, which is STAMP would be solution, time, authority, money, pain, really getting into the hard negotiation there to really understand the pain points of the customer. Really just start off the conversation with, hey, how are things on your side? What are you seeing from a business perspective? How are things personally, etc. I think we can see this example here from Alex. Alex is the founder of ReachDesk, and ReachDesk do direct mail. And this is something that they've been working with their SDR team is sending video content. And this is Alex wearing a sombrero. But it works, you know, people connect to people. And I think the more genuine you can be here, and the more a little bit different you can be here, the better it's going to be for you and your brand, and the more likely you are going to be able to get that meeting booked. From an events perspective, this is the third thing that I'd be concentrating on, is really nailing those online events. I think right now we're in a situation where this is a big opportunity. Nobody's really done it well before. It's been happening before in the past, but honestly, I think that in the past, these virtual events were very similar to just glorified video chats, really. I think nowadays, the fact that vendors of the technology that offer these remote events or digital events or virtual events, or whatever you want to call it, are under extreme pressure to make sure that the user experience is very strong from both the exhibitors and also the visitors' perspective. Then on top of that, you've also got no choice but from the exhibitor side and also the visitor side to start going virtual. The likelihood is that no events are going to be really physical events are going to be available until early 2021 at this point. And even at that point, you'd wonder to yourself how many of these are going to be full, because people are going to be wary about meeting in public areas with such a huge amount of people. So it's very, very sketchy in terms of where this is going to be in a year from now. So I'd really focus our efforts on really nailing those events. As I said to you before, if you from an events perspective with Demexco, for example, I've seen great success there before in the past, but what you need to do is you need to do the hard yards before you get there. Once you get on the trade show floor, the work should already be done. So from my perspective, what works and what I think is, I've just written an ebook about this, going virtual, rewriting the event playbook. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn if you want a copy. Um, I think you need to focus on a couple of things. You need to set targets beforehand. So what do we want to achieve from this? What's the pipeline that we want to create? Based off of that, you can do some backwards or reverse engineering in terms of creating a funnel. So you need to then get your SDR sales team on booking meetings with the people that are going to be visiting. Then you need to be going and completing those meetings. So that's an important part. It's not just about booking meetings, but it's actually about making sure that people show up to those meetings. Now, there's a couple of different use cases that are quite interesting, which I have in the event playbook. One of them being, for example, send a direct mail piece, which could be as simple as sending somebody lunch during the time of that specific meeting that you're supposed to have. But there are some use cases in the ebook as well that you can take a look at. And start from the pipeline, as I said, build your way back up, create pipeline. How many meetings you're going to get completed? How many meetings you need to book in order to get there? And that should give you a good overview of what you can get out of these events. I think you really need to be different. You need to stand out a lot more at these. I don't think, or I think that a lot of people will miss the boat on this, but I see it as a true opportunity right now in order to make the most out of it. So this is something that's been pretty important to us over the past 6 weeks. From our side at Leadfeeder, we've run a series of webinars, which has seen great success. We've done very, very, very little investment in them, like hundreds of dollars, so maybe $300-400 or something, and managed to get nearly 7,000 registrations over seven webinars, which is, really, really happy with. But it's, for us to do that, what have we been doing? We've been giving people our time. We haven't been doing any type of hard sell. We've literally been introducing industry experts and trying to help people. So this shouldn't be any different for sales in their outreach. What you should be trying to do is build a rapport, build a relationship, and just putting out really an olive branch or a helping hand to people. I wouldn't be going into a conversation being like, "Hey, we expect you to close based on this help I'm going to give you." Really, just be genuine and say, "Hey, we know that you have this specific issue. If you're selling something, I don't know, that's website related, analytics related, or something, is there something free, some free advice that you can give them, right? Something that the competitors are doing that they aren't doing that you can maybe help them with. This is something that will help you stand out, either immediately or in the long run." Something that has been working particularly well for us is connections. Use your network. This is pretty important for me at the moment as well. I'm seeing that I'm able to rely on people in my network that I've done favors before in the past. Reach out to people. Ask them if they would do an introduction for you. There's also product. You can get your product in front of people that are connected to your connections. It's as simple as just asking the question. And people are really open at the moment to doing intros on LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn's a very good channel for this. And maybe there are some form of benefits that you can offer to people, to your connections, if they do an intro for you. So this is worth thinking about. It could be as simple as sending some swag, company swag, or it could be about sending something small in the post to them, or a bottle of champagne, or whatever it might be. But it's nice to recognize if somebody does do the connection, but people are very much open to do it nowadays. And I think this is probably one of the most important parts, is that there will be some form of normality. People will be going back to the office in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months. It's already started to happen in a number of countries. I think we need to start thinking about that. What does that mean, and how is that going to work? I think people have probably just started, but I don't know if too many people are prepared for that. So I think it's worth thinking about, what will that mean to our sales teams? What will that mean to our marketing teams? And I think, from my perspective, the most important thing is don't panic. Keep your head focused on what needs to happen here. What needs to happen here is that you create those personal connections between yourself and your prospect. Do that by always offering a helping hand. Do your research. Make sure you know the prospect's business like the back of your hand, and always be there just to give them the helping hand. Before I finish up, I think there's just one point that I'd like to make here is that, during these times, and these are very uncertain times, and also we're probably expecting some form of recession, depression off the back of this. I just want to show you a number of different logos here. These logos were all created during the 2008-2009 bust. So during the worst recession that we've seen in a long time, these are the brands that came out of it. So some of the biggest brands in the tech space were born during a recession period. So during adverse times, there's plenty of opportunity to be made. It's about how you make it. That's it from me. Please feel free to reach out to myself on LinkedIn. From a lead feeder perspective, we offer a 14-day free trial if you want to come and test out the product. This will help you find out those companies that are visiting your site in order to see what buyer intent data you have, or whatever buyer intent data you're sitting on. So please feel free to reach out, book a demo, or sign up directly for a trial. I wish you all the best, and thanks for listening.